Good morning. I'm Kim Knox, president of LWV San Diego. Want to welcome all of you this morning. Unlike many other of our events, this one is a working meeting where members share their feedback about their priorities for our league. Today, we'll be discussing proposed program items and reviewing local positions. And in order to include members that were unable to attend, we are recording this discussion and we'll email the video out. So rather than making decisions together today, we'll ask everyone to specify their preferences by filling out a form after the meeting. I want to let you know that we are having an in-person meet and greet next weekend. That'll be Sunday, March 6th at 2 p.m. at Beryl Flom's home in La Jolla. It'll be outdoors. You can visit our website to register. For now, I'd like to introduce LWV San Diego Vice President Lori Thiel, who will take you through the workshop portion of today's meeting.
Thanks, Kim. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen here and we'll just get right into it. So give me just a sec. So as Kim said, I'm screen sharing, but I'm also speaking. So I won't be able to see your reactions or see your hand raises. So again, if you have a question as I go through this, or you need me to slow down or whatever, just contact Kim or let her know in a way that's appropriate, and I'll see if I can accommodate you as I go. But this is our annual meeting that we do every year regarding program planning, and most of you are very well aware of how this works, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on some details. So we'll just quickly go through and talk a little bit about what we do and why. So every year our local league and all local leagues are asked to do a program planning meeting where we ask members to give us direction on where to focus our resources. So in every other year, we do our program planning along with state, LWVC, and then the off years, we do it along with LWVUS. So we do our local, and then we also give direction to either state or national. And this year it happens to be national. So we'll be doing some work on national as well today. So today, what we hope the outcome to be is an opportunity for us to consider the areas we want to focus our local activities on. We're also going to do that for LWVUS, as I said, the National League, and we're also going to review a portion of our local positions. As you know, we divide our position review up in half, and every year we do one half and the other half. And this year we're going to do the half of the positions that we didn't cover last year at program planning. I'm just going to give you a little brief rundown about league positions. Most of you already know this, but I just want to make sure you understand because we're going to have a discussion of positions later on in this meeting. And so as you all know, we only take action on issues that we have a position on. And so we do studies and come to consensus on issues, and we'll do some consensus questions later on, and we'll talk about what other leagues have asked us to consider sending to national. And our positions are divided into certain areas. The US positions cover the 4 areas you see there. And then LWVC and our leagues here also do what's called action policies. We've adopted a couple of those. And we work together with our members to pull together different positions within or statements within positions that kind of create a more comprehensive opportunity for us to advocate locally. And that brings me to my next comment on how we take action. So we do advocate locally. Some of our most effective advocacy work comes when we either create or join a coalition with other like-minded advocates. There are a lot of organizations here in San Diego that we work very closely with, and you'll be hearing from a couple of those here today in our program planning meeting. We'll talk about some of those relationships. We also meet with and lobby elected officials. We have individual meetings with city council members, et cetera, to get their take on and to share our positions on issues of interest. We testify, as you know, before city council and in conjunction with the North County League in front of the County Board of Supervisors as well. And of course, we mobilize our members. We actually have a site, a place on our website dedicated to member activism. So if you haven't checked out our website, please go there and do that. We occasionally post opportunities for our members to become active. call their legislators, call their representatives, et cetera, and get involved in high level activism. So I invite you to check that out. Okay, so when we do these program planning meetings, we try to do them in a comprehensive way that gives us the highest impact. And we try to do it with, we consider questions like you see here on your screen. We are a truly grassroots organization, and that's why these meetings are very important to us, because we take feedback from members to let us know what they want. So what is of interest to our local league, to our local community? What do our members want us to focus on? And what opportunities are there in our city to leverage our particular resources? And then, of course, we look for other organizations that are also like-minded that we can align with and advocate alongside. Part of what we do includes DEI, and Kim's going to talk a little bit about that because it's a very important part of how we are operating and how the national and state leagues want us to continue to operate together.
Yes, so at LWV, we use the DEI lens, and that is a way of examining a program, a process, a product, or otherwise with how it will be perceived by a variety of communities, voices, and perspectives, and what barriers may exist that are preventing it from being fair or inclusive to everyone. So we ask who is involved in the process, key stakeholders, a diverse group, an impacted group or community, who will be impacted, who benefits, and who is burdened. We consider marginalized groups and how they might be impacted. We think about what are the intended and unintended outcomes. Does this align with our vision for an equitable and inclusive league? And what changes could be made to make this more equitable?
All right, thank you, Kim. So as we go through today, just remember Kim's words and maybe change your perspective if you need to kind of get a different perspective on some of the issues we'll be discussing today. As I said, we try to take a very deliberate approach to this and try to figure out exactly where our most impact can be made. So when we get ready to have our conversations and discuss the issues for emphasis, we like to think about opportunities for us to actually make change in our community. So this is a little diagram that kind of pulls together some of the ideas about how to make change and how impact actually comes to fruition with our advocacy. We are an all-volunteer organization. And so as such, we rely very heavily on our members and our board and others to help us become and have an impact in our community and to give us information and feedback and structure around how we advocate and move forward. So this is an opportunity for us to just kind of work together and pull together in the same direction with our members and others in our community. So we're going to get started. We're going to start with our local program planning. And as many of you know, you've gotten opportunities in the past couple of weeks to forward to me any ideas or issues for emphasis that you would like to see discussed here in today's meeting. So we got feedback regarding 3 studies or areas for emphasis and 1 position update. And as I said, we're going to go through our positions later on, but you can see right here that someone advocated to remove the word handicap from one of our positions regarding transportation and replace it with a term that's more updated, persons requiring assistance or something similar. So this is the feedback we got from our members regarding this particular local programming. And so with that, I'm going to so we have 2 different people to talk about this. And as I said earlier in our meeting, we do collaborate with and join coalitions. And you will see right here, these are 3 organizations that we do and have worked with in the past. The first is Ranked Choice Voting. There's an organization that we're coalition members of here in San Diego called More Choice San Diego. The League of Women Voters, this league has been a member of that coalition since its founding. We are trying to advocate to bring ranked choice voting to the city of San Diego. And so that coalition is working to put that piece of legislation on the ballot. Another organization that we've been working with is called Voters' Voice, and they're advocating to bring publicly funded elections to San Diego. And then the third that I'm gonna, I'll throw to in just a minute, is the San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention. We've done some work with them in the past and advocated with them as well. So with that, I'm gonna hand over to Jeannie Widener. She's gonna go through a couple of pieces of information on both of the two top areas for emphasis. And then I'm gonna, and when she's done, I'll hand it over to Carol, who is going to advocate for gun violence prevention. So let me stop screen sharing and I'll hand it over to Jeannie.
Okay. Yes, this is part of what we would like to do as a League for Election Reform in our city elections. And one of these is ranked choice voting, which is being used by many cities all over the country. And our particular coalition would actually like to bring this before the city council so that for the 2022 elections, we would have top 5 ranked choice voting. And if I can share my screen, I'll show you just a clip about what ranked choice voting entails. And we can, if anybody has any questions, we can either discuss that now or possibly later in the program. So.
So what is ranked choice voting? In most parts of the United States, voters select a single candidate for each position on their ballot, and the candidate with the most votes wins. This is known as single choice winner-take-all, which can sometimes result in the election of a candidate who earned only a small percentage of the vote, even when the majority of voters supported other candidates. But that's not the only way of electing our leaders. Ranked choice voting is another voting method which allows voters to rank their candidates in order of preference. In a ranked choice voting election, a candidate needs to earn more than half of the votes to win. All first choices are counted, and if a candidate has a majority, then they win, just like any other election. If not, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and voters who picked that candidate as number 1 will have their votes count for their next choice. This process continues until a candidate earns a majority and is declared the winner. Let's look at an example. Here, you select orange as your first choice candidate, yellow as your second, pink as your third, and green as your final choice. The first choices are counted. Yellow earned 35%, orange 21%, pink earned 28%, and green earned 16% of the vote. Because nobody won more than 50%, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and voters who picked him as their first choice have their ballots count for their second choice. This continues until a candidate receives more than half of the votes, or 50% plus 1. So what are some of the benefits of ranked choice voting? Ranked choice voting provides more choices, allowing more than 2 candidates to compete without fear of splitting the vote among like-minded individuals. Sometimes voters feel pressured to vote for the lesser of 2 evils. Ranked choice voting allows people to vote for their favorite candidate, not just against the candidates they dislike. With ranked choice voting, we see more positive campaigns and less negative advertising. Candidates are encouraged to reach out to as many voters as possible, including those supporting their opponents. They can build a winning coalition with like-minded candidates to earn voters' second and third choices. It's time to fix our democracy and make our elections work better for everybody. We can do that with ranked choice voting. Visit www.fairvote.org to find out how you can get involved.
So one of the things about ranked choice voting that I find most important is that it has been shown to result in more civil campaigns, because the top candidate, even if they would be less likely to criticize their opponents if they would, since they would like to appeal to those opponents' base, so that they can be a second choice on the ballot. So, and it has been shown to result in more civil campaigns, which, as we know, is very important in this time of partisan politics. And it also allows for more people to get involved, because they feel that if they can vote for a candidate that they don't, that may not be an obvious win at this time, they can voice their opinion and not necessarily throw away their vote as what happens. So it may allow more people to get involved in our elections and actually present their positions that could be considered. So for our, what they're hoping to do, the more choice, or the voters' voice committee would like to get this on the ballot so that after the primary, the top 5 winners of the primary will appear on the ballot for our city council elections, and people would have a choice of ranking 5 people for those positions.
Great, thanks, Jeannie. I guess I should have mentioned that Jeannie's our voter empowerment chair. So you'll hear from her again later on when we talk about national issues for emphasis. She's going to talk about some election reform issues there as well. And I think, did you also want to talk a little bit about democracy dollars?
I do, yeah.
Okay, I think, yeah, go ahead.
So I'll go ahead and share my screen and show you a little about that. Just as a brief introduction, this is a way to allow for public financing of our candidates. And you may recall, we actually helped in the development of this video that I'm going to show you. It's just a 3-minute video where we actually served as the holder of the money that was used to pay for the production of this video. And it is, again, an important election reform where we're trying to get money out of the hands of big donors that are telling our voters who they can vote for, and getting it into the hands of the people where we would have publicly funded elections. So let me show you a little bit about that too.
Our San Diego community is amazing.
Bye, boys. Have a good day.
We work hard. We take care of each other. We try to build a brighter future for everyone.
Fully charged.
And we come together to get things done. Sometimes, though, no matter how hard we work,
I really appreciate it.
Hey, Amy, we are so happy you are running for city council.
we don't see our city make progress on the issues we care most about, from affordable housing to great schools to good-paying jobs.
And this is how you get there.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is. Shall we go?
When we vote, we hope to give the keys to our community to leaders with the brightest minds and most commitment.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of City Council.
But with the amount of money needed to run in our local elections, candidates spend far more time fundraising than listening to voters. Too often, wealthy special interests try to pull our leaders off track. And we pay the price. But it doesn't have to be this way. We deserve leaders in City Hall who take direction from the people they serve. There's an innovative way where candidates can listen to the whole community while running for office, rather than just to big money groups.
A community infrastructure forum, I can do that.
And then we go to the pancake breakfast.
We need to bring small donor financing to San Diego city elections and put candidates who respond to voters in the driver's seat.
Democracy dollars. It makes sense.
Here's how small donor financing works. As an eligible voter, you would receive 4 Democracy Dollar certificates worth $25 each to give to the candidate or candidates of your choice at the beginning of each election cycle. Your Democracy Dollars help the candidates you like best to run for office and limit the influence of powerful special interests. A similar program in Seattle is transforming local elections, boosting voter turnout, increasing the number of voters who contribute to candidates, limiting the influence of the wealthiest donors, and encouraging candidates from all walks of life to run for office. By allowing candidates in our city to run for office without having to depend on big, outside corporate sources of money, we can keep our elected officials accountable to us. Candidates can only accept your Democracy Dollars after qualifying and agreeing to additional campaign finance rules.
That sounds good. So here's one for now. And I'll see you at the candidates forum.
Oh, absolutely.
Democracy Dollars encourage candidates and their communities to connect, because every event, from knocking on doors, to pancake breakfast, to public forums, is now an opportunity to earn votes and collect Democracy Dollars to fuel their campaign.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of City Council.
Congratulations.
Join us, make your voice heard, and let's work together to bring democracy dollars to San Diego, returning power to the people and driving us forward. Find out how we can do this at democracydollars.info.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your attention. You'll be hearing a lot more about both of these programs in the coming election cycle.
Great, thank you, Jeannie. So we have another advocate here for another coalition that we've been a part of. As I'd said earlier, San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention. We have a representative from that organization named Carol. Carol, are you available to speak to us about advocating for this?
I am.
Thank you. Good,
Yes.
good to have you.
Yes, well, thanks for having me. And it was a little bit last minute because I only heard about this planning meeting last night. So I'm not super prepared to give you everything that perhaps you'd like to hear, but I'll do my best. So San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention is a collaboration between several organizations in San Diego and also nationwide. And we're led by members from Brady, United Against Gun Violence, and Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. So we have both those national organizations that we draw from. But in San Diego, we work especially, and you were mentioning earlier, one of your goals to diversity. And one of our goals in San Diego is working with the Black and Brown communities, which are disproportionately affected by gun violence. We work specifically with two organizations, Shafat Outreach and Community Wraparound, that work with gangs in Southeast San Diego. They do amazing work. So our role is more just support and helping them when they are doing their various activities in Southeast. One of the problems that you may have been hearing about in San Diego has been the proliferation of ghost guns. And these are guns that can be bought online. The kits can be bought online and cobbled together with very little expertise. And all of a sudden you've got a fully functioning firearm that has no background check, no controls on it whatsoever. So we have been working, we've worked with both the City of San Diego and the county supervisors. So now we've been successful in getting ordinances to ban these ghost guns in both city and county. So this is just to let you know a little bit about what we've been doing over this last year. The other thing, city and county, has been safe storage ordinances. So what we have managed to achieve now, thanks to Marnie Van Wolpert at City Council and the county supervisors, is an ordinance that will require gun owners to keep their guns securely locked, keeping them out of the hands of children. Especially during COVID, there's been an increase in suicides, as you probably have heard, both with children and also, well, with adults. The veterans population has been severely affected by suicides. So this firearms safe storage is going to help with that. Because if the guns are locked up, then less access by children and people who are wanting either to do damage to themselves or to others. So, you know, I'm thinking about what I'm hoping that the League of Women Voters will help us with is some of the advocacy that we do, both for City Council and also at the state and national level when we're advocating for gun bills. And also for, I guess I'm just looking for your ideas on how best to help in San Diego itself.
Great, Thank
I was
you,
interested. I was interested in. I just one more thing. In the big money, your video on the big money. We do have a problem with big money with the NRA, of course, and what we have. They're opposing the NRA. That money is flowing into the pockets of legislators, and they are doing the will of the gun lobby, which is really a shame. And really, the NRA is responsible for the deaths of many people. Last year, I'm just looking for the number here. So 2021, gun violence was up across the country. 44,900 Americans died from gun violence in 2021. And this is the highest it's been in decades. A lot of that was fired up by the epidemic, by the pandemic, and people, for whatever, to my mind, rather strange reason, found it necessary to go out and buy a firearm for protection. So we had thousands of people buying firearms with no idea on how to use them and very little training. And I think that all of that has added to the rise in gun deaths and also in suicides. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I think what I would love to do is maybe talk more at whatever works for League of Women Voters to get some support from you, some coalition building.
Yeah, we definitely do. Right. We definitely work together, and we'll find as we go through the next election cycle, we'll have opportunities to advocate together as well.
That would be
great.
Would
you be willing to take a question from?
Yes, of course.
Okay, Beryl, would you like to ask Carol a question?
As I recall, Governor Newsom suggested that we not have gun shows, and we have them in Del Mar. Are you working on that, or what's happened to it?
Yeah, well, actually, Del Mar no longer has a gun show.
Good.
Yeah. And we also now, Senator Min passed a bill last year that will prohibit the gun show in Orange County as well. So rather than going, we'd love to have the whole of California gun show free on state property, but we're going area by area at the moment because that seems to be the only way we can move forward. But you're right that Governor Newsom would love to see the end of gun shows on state property. I mean, why should the state pay to have gun shows and promote deadly weapons?
Great. All right. Thanks, Carol, so much for joining us and advocating for your coalition.
Thank you.
Okay, I will continue to screen share. Okay, so that was our local advocacy and issues for emphasis. Now we're going to talk about national. So as many of you might be aware, National LWV US has had the campaign for making democracy work for several years. We have voted on that at national conventions in the past few years as well. And it covers these 4 areas: voting rights, improving elections, money in politics, and redistricting. So the League is very involved in these 4 areas that relate to making democracy work. And they advocate on the behalf of all of the leagues throughout the nation on each of these issues. As you know, they're sometimes involved in lawsuits that help improve voting rights in different states around the country, election reform, etc. So they have asked if all the leagues throughout the nation will continue to support this campaign. So at the end of this session, after we pull this video together and resend it to you and all the other members, we'll also provide a survey that will give you the option to click yes or no about whether or not you would like to continue to have the National League work on these issues on behalf of the entire leagues throughout the country. In addition to that, we will get to propose an additional item. So you'll get to vote, as I said, when you get your email with this video in it. And your vote will allow you to choose one of these issues that we are going to discuss in this next segment. And this, as I said earlier, will enable us, our league, to make our voices heard in directing the resources of our national league. So the way this works is just like we did locally, we asked our members to send to us ideas that they have about where they want us to focus our efforts. We have been getting feedback from leagues around the nation asking us to consider these ideas. And we actually are one of the leagues who sent out advocacy requests throughout the nation. You'll hear from Beryl regarding immigration reform, and that will come up second to Jean Widener. She's going to be back on, as I said, she'll be talking about the issues here that relate to elections. She's our voter empowerment chair. Then we'll hear from Beryl, then Mary Hansen. I will review some of the concurrence issues that we've received. So we'll go through all of those as soon as we get an opportunity. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Jeannie Widener can have a chance to chat.
Okay, I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the abolition of the Electoral College. Many of you may know that the League has been in favor of doing this since 1970. However, it's become even more imperative that we draw the attention of the country to how undemocratic the Electoral College is. I think all of you are aware that essentially the Electoral College has now been weaponized to try to overturn the results of a free and fair election, as was done in 2020. We saw it on January 6th of last year, and we're also seeing it in some states' efforts to try to overturn their own electors. So it's become much more of a front issue for the country if we are going to remain a democracy. So this was introduced by the League of Women Voters of Deerfield and Lincolnshire, Illinois. The League's position statement as announced by the National Board, the League of Women Voters of the United States believes that the direct popular vote method for electing the president and vice president is essential to representative government. They believe, therefore, that the Electoral College should be abolished. And in lieu of that, we support the use of the National Popular Vote Compact as one acceptable way to achieve this goal. So this is a proposal that we would like to bring to national so that we can make it one of the issues that are the forefront for electoral reform in our country. Beryl, do you have a question about that? You're muted.
They brought it up 2 years ago. What happened then?
No. Yeah, they did. At that time, they were supporting the national popular vote, but we also were able to put on as a proposal to actually also abolish the Electoral College by a constitutional amendment. So they wanted to do it from both ways if they could. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jean. Next item for discussion is immigration reform, and Beryl actually brought that forward and is advocating with us here today and has presented it to other leagues across the country as well.
Just to give you a little background, as most of you know, I chair the Immigration and Deportation Committee here. And last summer at the state convention, Jane Andrews and I put together a PowerPoint for the caucus there. Out of that grew a state immigration committee called the LWVC Immigration Interest Group. And it was their plan to introduce to the leagues across the country that we should have more advocacy by the National League on immigration, periodically they send a letter out, but it's not very active advocacy. And we think that all the undocumented people, the inhumane treatment of people trying to come to the United States, and all the problems related to immigration would make making democracy work a much better success story. The League has positions on immigration that are pretty good. We are not proposing a study, we're just asking for more advocacy. And so we've gotten emails back from many leagues saying that they support this, and I hope that you will too.
Great, thank you, Beryl. Again, as I said, we'll get an opportunity, each of us, after this to weigh in with the survey that we're going to send out. Next on the list of items is Mary Hansen. She's going to talk about climate.
Okay, thank you, Lori. I don't have any visuals or anything like that, but I think you all know that the League has been involved in climate change issues for some time at all levels of League. And there is a national climate change task force and a California climate change task force. And we have quite a few members right in San Diego County who are involved. These are well-established groups, dynamic groups, working really hard on climate change issues. And it's been a priority, not the top priority, and I think we'd all agree probably that, well, I can't say that, but making democracy works is right in the League's wheelhouse, but climate change is something that we all care about, and it really needs to be, I mean, we all need to be involved, but it really needs to be the action needs to be at the national level. And that's why, or the leadership, the resources to really make meaningful change. So I just wanted to add this to the mix so that we could communicate, if you agree, that the National League LWVUS needs to continue to be, it's not something new, it needs to continue to be committed to this, to make it a priority, to support the leaguers that are working on this, to keep climate change on the front burner, so to speak, although that's a really bad metaphor, talking about climate change, but you know what I mean. I just wanted to voice that. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Mary. Okay, the next item that was submitted for all leagues across the country to consider is called digital equity. And so I'm just going to share a little bit about what that is. It's an issue for concurrence. So concurrence is an opportunity for leagues to agree with each other. So often, for example, a league we're going to talk about this later. In fact, the state league here in California created a criminal justice position, and it's very robust. It was extremely well considered and organized and managed by some of the top minds in the state of California. And so what happens is we can all agree that that position is so well done and so obviously a good position that we can concur with it, so that we can adopt it and use it to advocate as well. So in state of California, obviously, because California is our state and the LWVC is the one who originated that position, we are automatically covered under, we can automatically use it to advocate. But you'll see as we go through this program that other states are asking leagues to tell the US, the national organization, to concur with that. And that's kind of what we've been asked to do with some of these other issues as well. And this is one of those. This is a concurrent statement that was proposed by LWV Connecticut. So their positions include high-speed internet access, which is broadband, and public educational and governmental access. So essentially what they've discovered over the course of the last couple of years during the pandemic is that across the country, there aren't Americans, residents don't have equal access to opportunities to have internet service. So they would like for all of the leagues across the country to tell LWV US that they want to advocate for digital equity for all residents of the United States. So that's essentially what they've asked us to do. I'll read a little bit about what they had said here. It says the League of Women Voters supports making high-speed internet access available to all residents of the United States without charge through schools, libraries, and other secure public buildings. So that is for individuals, but they also want to broaden access through public affairs media. Access to public affairs programming through modern media communication is essential to the public interest and to League of Women Voters' mission and purpose to protect civil liberties, to ensure open, transparent government, and to promote the public's right to know. So that's kind of a nutshell, but you all have been given links to this information. And when we send out the video from today's event and the survey to allow you to vote, we will provide you with more details, the details that came to us, and we've coordinated into a document. So you'll be able to read this more thoroughly, but this is just an overview about what digital equity is and who brought it forward for discussion. Okay, the next item on our list, and these items are in no particular order. They showed up on a website, a group website and they just were posted in the order that they came, and I just used that same order. So again, this is no particular order. There is another concurrence position about LWVS VUS healthcare, and Karen Lee is going to talk to us about that. Karen Lee, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I'm Karen Lee Robinson, and I've been attending the California Healthcare, the League of Women Voter California Healthcare Interest Group, and as part of that have attended some presentations by the New York State League of Women Voters. And as many of you may be aware, the New York State League of Women Voter concurrence proposal is going forward to the National Convention to update the 1993 League of Women Voter US healthcare position. And what this concurrence adds to the current healthcare, the current national healthcare position is universal and equitable access to comprehensive care. It supports expanded delivery options to reach the most vulnerable, ensures quality care, safe staffing, and centers healthcare decisions to be made by patients with their physicians rather than for-profit entities. It explicitly favors single-payer funding with access to health insurance independent of employment status. COVID certainly has shown the dangers of millions of people losing their health insurance because their job changes or they lose their jobs. It also provides, in the absence of a national program funding universal health care, new language allows states like California or New York to enact programs provided they comply with league principles. There's also cost control measures to use the most credible evidence-based research. Such measures should not exacerbate disparities among patients. There's explicit support for transparent administration with regular assessment of public health metrics. There's negotiated volume discounts for pharmaceuticals and durable medical equipment, evidence-based treatment protocols and drug formularies that include cost-benefit assessments of medical value, malpractice reforms, quality improvement processes, and open direct communication with patients. Most important, one of the most important is investment in well care, such as prevention, family planning, patient education, primary care, maternal and infant care, chronic disease management, and behavioral health care, and provision for short and long-term home care services to reduce institutionalization. Well, why now, given all the efforts that have gone into healthcare reform? Since most local and state leagues used the 1993 national healthcare position in lieu of having their own, amending the national position to be more current benefits all of us. New York State has done a 2-year comprehensive study meeting the requirement to change a national position. Currently, in mid-February, 9 states and 40 local leagues have signed on to the proposed concurrence to be presented at the National Convention to bring the topic to the floor simply for discussion, debate, and vote. And that was before a presentation by New York State that had like 60 different leagues online talking about this concurrence. There are innumerable reasons to address healthcare now. 1, US life expectancy trails other G7 nations by up to 4 years with far greater costs. Marginalized Americans, people of color, rural and poor, die 7 to 9 years younger than other G7 countries. Rural health hospitals are closing, OB services are closing. There's a massive primary care doctor shortage. Maternal mortality rates have been decreasing for 20 years out in the US, and they're rising out in countries outside the US. And the US spends far more money. It spends $11,000 per person on healthcare, $7,500 from taxes, and $4,000 for out-of-pocket expenses. Our system is clearly broken, and lots of people have said that. And it needs to be fixed. And the League's position is an important tool in pushing forward the efforts. The National League's position is an important tool in pushing forth efforts to address healthcare reform, both nationally, and if not nationally, then on our state level. So that's my reason for bringing this forward at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen Lee. Again, that's a lot of information to take in, but as I've mentioned, you'll get more data and more updates. The copy on that and the video on this as well for your review before you vote. The next item on our list for consideration is another concurrence, and it's for the criminal justice position, as I mentioned earlier, that the state of California League had pulled together, as you know, several years ago. So the League of Saratoga County is asking all leagues across the country to recommend to the LWVUS board a concurrence at the upcoming convention to support and adopt the criminal justice position. So again, when you get your documents, you'll be able to actually link to that position. If you want to take a look at it now, you just go to lwvc.org and then click on positions, and they have listed all the national and state positions there. But the California position starts with a very comprehensive bullet point. We support a criminal justice system that is just, effective, equitable, transparent, and that fosters public trust at all stages, including policing practices, pretrial procedures, sentencing, incarceration, and reentry. And then the vertical statements just go on and on through that. This is a very involved position. Obviously, it goes on to talk about policing practices and constitutional policies, pretrial procedures, sentencing, incarceration, reentry programs, and then general statements. So again, that link will be provided to you and you can read up on that, but it's a very robust statement. It's a very robust position. And as I mentioned, Saratoga is asking leagues across the country to advocate for consensus with the National League. Let's see what's next. The next item we've been asked to consider for concurrence is election security. And again, our voter empowerment chair will review that for us.
Thanks, Lori. This concurrence statement comes from the League of Women Voters of Colorado, and they believe that election security should be considered as an essential tool for making democracy work for the program for which the League is advocating overall. Their belief that their statement on this includes the fact that the LWVUS's one-sentence position on citizens' right to vote is silent on security. And this statement is as follows. The League of Women Voters of the United States believes that voting is a fundamental citizen right that must be guaranteed. The Colorado League has adopted an election security position that goes beyond this 2006 convention resolution. We see an urgent need for this election security position nationwide. Among the things that they think should be considered as part of this election security position is that voter registration databases must be secure, accurate, updated, and transparent, and independently audited, chain of custody with strict protocols. Election officials, workers, and volunteers must be qualified and trained with no relationship to candidates. The voting systems, both hardware and software, must be supported and secure, verifying voter eligibility to cast a ballot through best practices, requiring software independence, and voter verifiability, encouraging voters to confirm their votes and review them and verify that tabulations as voters intended. So this is a statement, as I said, from the Colorado League that believe that this is something that should be endorsed by the National League. And I want to point out that all of these things that they are referring to exist here in California, but it is something that, of course, they believe should be part of every election system nationwide.
Great, thank you so much for that. And we have one last item to consider. This one is a study. If you're familiar with league studies, they are very comprehensive. They have been known to take several years, in fact, because our organization is extremely values detail and information. And so it's not, it's with great trepidation that this league reached out and asked us to support this study. It was the League of Maine, and they proposed a study to examine the assault on democracy playing out in the online sphere. Operating outside the election process itself, online activities have been documented that suppress Black votes and amplify false and misleading information in order to affect election outcomes. While there may be a reluctance to take on a new national study, our league believes this topic, not our league, this is Maine speaking, believes this topic is appropriate for a national study because it fits into the Making Democracy Work campaign. Our principles and positions for representative government do not provide a basis for evaluating legislation in this area that embodies member understanding and agreement. So that's their argument for proposing this digital democracy study. And as they noted, they don't do so lightly, but they think it's an important way for our organization to address what they see as an online extracurricular election influence. So that is the last of our items that we need to consider. And again, I'm going to go back to the slideshow.
Let's just reiterate what a concurrence means is that a local or state league has already completed a study and adopted a position. And now they're asking the National League to adopt that existing position.
All right, so when you get your opportunity for feedback, you will see those options. I'll put them up on the screen again. Give me one sec. Looks like Jane has a question.
Yeah. For clarification with the concurrence issue, so say we vote to put, like the concurrence on the criminal justice position. Does that then go to the convention for approval, or is it what's the next step after that? Does the National League what does the National League do with that?
The National League board will decide whether they want to add this proposed item to their official proposed program, which is very likely to pass. It's like a slate.
Okay.
Those things in elections often get 99% of the vote, as opposed to these things being non-recommended items, which are less likely to pass at the annual meeting.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions regarding that?
It means that we don't as a league don't have to study all over the country the same thing. We just adopt it.
Correct. Yeah, that's what concurrence allows us to do. I think Mary has her hand up.
Oh, I was just going to clarify a little bit. Yes, whether it's the concurrence is recommended by the national board or not, any concurrence has to be approved at the national convention. And I can't remember who just mentioned this. The beauty of that is not reinventing the wheel. Another local or state league has done the study, done the work, and we can concur as a national league and add it to our program without going through a whole new study. It's a very convenient way in these busy times. It has to be done with care, but that if some of you are going to be a delegate at this upcoming convention, and I hope you are, you'll have a chance to vote on these concurrence items, however they come up. So it's being used more and more in the league, I think, and I think that's a good thing. All right.
Thank you, Mary. Well, I mean, speaking of voting, to Mary's point, we all get this. It starts here at the local league, and here's just a sample. This is a screenshot of part of the survey form you're going to get following this meeting today, where you get to make your voice heard. So we're all about voting and having the opportunity to weigh in. And so this is what it will look like when it comes to you in your email in the next 24 hours or so. Karen Lee, do you have a question?
How do you choose one of these, and why is there only one? I mean, there's the election security is critically important, but so is climate change, so is healthcare. I mean, immigration.
So let me answer your question. So I'll try to answer. You have several questions there. Again, we're going to provide you, as we already have, opportunities to read through some of these items that were submitted, and you can read the actual words from the people who are advocating for it and educate yourself and follow links, etc. We'll provide that again for you to take a look at. But what will happen is you will all of our members will vote, and then the board will consider the top 2 items that got the most votes, because when we submit our form to the National League, they allow us to choose an extra item. So, okay, Mary, you have a question?
Oh, it's kind of just reiterate, it was just why are we, this seems different from how we've done in the past. Why are we asked to just select one? Yeah. Because often there's several things that will come up for concurrence. I'm just not comfortable being limited to one choice.
Yeah.
I don't know when or how that was decided, but it does seem a change from how this is normally done. I don't know if Beryl or somebody else wants to weigh in on this, but
right.
I'd rather vote for more than one. I like them. They're all so have so much merit.
They do, and these were all very well considered items that were sent from all over the country. I think perhaps maybe it seems a little bit more daunting this year because the way that these were collected was a very organized fashion. And so in the years past, perhaps other leagues didn't get to rally or coordinate as well as they did this year. I mean, Kim and I were actually talking about this. They actually created for the first time in our knowledge an actual groups site where people could post their information. And the National League just made it very, very easy for groups to organize and to put their information on here. And I think that perhaps we got a lot of additional opportunities and advocacy requests that we might not have gotten in the past, because this is a lot. This is a lot for leagues to consider and to try to vote on. Secondarily,
and just to be clear, sorry, I just want to interrupt real quickly.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
not our local league that is limiting you to one choice. It's the National League.
Right.
They will only accept one from our league. And I contacted them about that, and I said, we might have more. What should we do? And they said they gave us a way to submit a second one, but that's the absolute most that we can do.
So the form that we have to fill out after our members vote on this, as I said, it'll go to the board, and the board will consider the 2 items on this list that got the most votes. And then the form that we fill out and we submit to National will allow us opportunities to include 2 items. Okay, Beryl, did you have a question?
You're muted, Beryl.
When we tried to email all the leagues in the US, National had no way of providing that until quite late in the game. And then they put up this website. So, you know, different leagues have not gotten all these suggestions because they started program planning 6 weeks ago.
Penny?
Why don't we use ranked choice? I'd like to see us do it 1, 2, 3, so that again, we're going with the majority of folks with the top one. Because I kind of agree that it's really difficult to make a single choice. And this way, at least you get the one that is for the bulk of folks, the highest priority. So I recommend we do like a ranked choice, 1, 2, 3. And
I like it.
All right, we'll take that under consideration, Penny. Thank you. Jean Widener?
Well, I was just going to suggest the same thing, but I don't know if the form will accommodate that. So that was my only concern. But I do think that that would be a way for us to experience ranked choice voting real time for our league. So.
Okay, and let's see, Margie, you have your hand up.
I want to vote for all of them, and I think it's wrong of National to limit us, because they can make a decision, and just as our board will make a decision.
Well, I appreciate that, but again, I mean, we literally have to fill out a form that it doesn't have any opportunity for me to go outside the strictures of that form. So we have been asked by National League to conduct this and to submit in the parameters of their format, and there's really no way around it. It's just, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, all of you. These are a lot of these are great issues, but we've been asked to select a single one, and there just happens to be another way we can slip a second one in. So, you know, these are very strict rules, and we've been asked to follow them by National League, and we're just going to have to do it because there's just really no other way to do this. So I'm not sure we have an opportunity to do ranked choice voting on this. I appreciate the feedback, and I agree that ranked choice voting is a great way to make a selection. However, I'm not sure that's going to be workable in this format. If it is, I will give you the opportunity, but if not, you might just get this form as you see it here. So Mary?
Oh, just reiterate, I hadn't thought of the ranked choice voting, but that's a perfect solution if this can be changed to do that. And then there's no reason why the LWV San Diego board can't politely express displeasure with being limited in what we can say in this way, because it's new and different and a little bit undemocratic. Anyway, there's probably a place for comments or another way to communicate the sense of the league, of this league, that this is, we feel too constrained here.
Yes, I'll definitely mention that when I fill out the form to submit our results. They are due on Tuesday morning. So there's unfortunately not going to be a way to set up ranked choice voting this weekend. There are a couple websites that offer it, but they're not secure elections. They don't limit you to one vote. So one person could go and submit 10 votes, and we can't do that either. So unfortunately, with the timing, it's not probably going to work for this year.
You know, maybe we should vote.
I suggest it to them.
Maybe we should vote no on making democracy work, because we know that's what they're going to choose. That's what they've been doing it for the last years.
But that doesn't add the option for us to suggest more things. It's just a yes or no question. That wouldn't allow us to submit any more of the other items.
Well, that's a competing making democracy work, where the majority are going to vote for that. But if we want to have any of these others included, we need to vote no on that.
Okay, voting no on that will not change anything about the second question.
Right, we still have only so much room in the form to add additional items. So Beryl, did you have something else?
You're muted, Beryl.
They have limited abilities in the office. They do have 35 employees, I've learned, but they feel that their strength and their uniqueness is in making democracy work, whereas other groups are working on these other topics. So that's why they keep choosing it.
All right, they propose.
And I also wanted to clarify that there is no board meeting before this is submitted. So the board is not going to review or change or anything what we submit. We're going to take the votes, and the top two winners of the second question shown here will be submitted.
Karen Lee.
It would seem to me that abolition of the Electoral College and election security are part of making democracy work.
Right, so they have already, so the league actually already does advocate for national popular vote versus Electoral College. So that's already part of their agenda. If you read through their, positions, et cetera, that's already, I think some of the people who submitted and posted on that site are just there to reiterate and to promote continued activity. So for example, climate change, we voted at the last, was it national or state convention to make climate change a priority. And so, that the opportunity here is to send that back and go, okay, let's all remember to make climate change a priority. So it's not like the National League hasn't already had that discussion with us. And it's not like we haven't already agreed that the Electoral College should be abolished. These are just other opportunities to make them a priority this year. So, I invite you all to go to the LWV US site and look at the positions there, or again, you can go to the state LWVC.org, and because they list all the national and state positions, and you can see some of these are already covered. Some of these ideas are already covered.
The league has decided that they're not going to push for that. Instead, they're pushing for the national popular vote method. So that's why someone is asking them to start advocating for this other method as well. And the four that are concurrences, I would assume that because these were submitted, that means that the national LWV does not have a position to advocate on them already.
It sounds like there's more areas for emphasis, because I remember being a part of that abolition of the Electoral College, and we all agreed it should be a popular vote, but they're saying which ones should we emphasize, but it would be nice to add some new positions, on the other things. It's
okay.
They only take action on voting stuff.
Mary, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Well, I'm kind of, I'm glad Margie mentioned that. It looks like exactly that areas for emphasis, Electoral College, we do have a position abolishing the Electoral College, and the only way that could be done is by a constitutional amendment. We do have positions on climate change. So it seems like this area for emphasis should be separate from a new study. And I don't know if this is the way the form came from the LWVUS. For example, I was really, the healthcare thing is a huge problem that we don't have an up-to-date position on that. And so it's like I don't think we should have to choose between areas of emphasis and something new. Was it set up that way that we have that division?
Yeah, so Kim and I talked about this, that the site was a collection for data. And so we got a lot of, well, this is what we got. So some of them were, opportunities for advocacy, and others were requests for concurrence. So it was just one big collection place. And you had to read through what was submitted and just try to discern what they were asking for. And this is what we got. So there were 4 submissions for concurrence. Beryl's submission, hers read for additional advocacy. Mary, you wanted to make climate change a priority. That was part of the one that you had said. And then the abolition of the Electoral College was just to emphasize or prioritize.
Right.
Yeah.
But usually at program planning, we separate what would be a new study, whether it's local, state, or national, and what would be an area of emphasis. So I'm kind of surprised it came down this way, lumping the two things together, because we should have a chance to say what we'd like to continue to emphasize on the one hand, and if we think we should undertake something new on the other. And I think we're all a little frustrated that it's been, and I think it's the problem is with the national, not you all. I think we're all a little frustrated that that these new studies, which could, on concurrence, new positions, let's put it that way, as opposed to emphasizing current program, that those two things are blended together in this way.
Yeah, everybody, I believe most people who submitted also went into great detail to explain how difficult it's going to be and how to actually fill out the form to get their item on the form. So everybody's already looked at that form and have wrung their hands about it. So
okay,
it's a very well-known problem. But yeah, Kim and I feel your pain. We've been wrestling with this for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Penny, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I just really want to push for immigration reform. Nobody's been talking a lot about it. And it's, to me, especially now with all these issues with the refugees coming over and all of this, and it's not something the Major League has dealt with very effectively or seriously. It's obviously huge in San Diego, but it should be huge in this country. And I really push folks to consider immigration reform as an area that the National League should be looking at very seriously and dealing with. So
Okay.
I think you guys will think about that.
Thank you, Penny. I appreciate that. All right. So I appreciate everybody's feedback. Thank you for your support on these issues, for advocating for the things that are important to you. We're going to have some work to do after this is over. Again, this is what you're going to get. It'll look something similar to this. Now we're going to move on to the next section of this discussion, which is positions, our local positions. We do this during program planning as well. We take a look at them and see if there are any opportunities for updates, et cetera. And as you saw from a previous slide, we did have one recommendation for an update, which we will take into consideration and implement. But because we're doing this meeting on Zoom, we're not going to use this particular forum today to wordsmith our positions. So what we've done to help accommodate this particular function of program planning is we formed a working group to take down suggestions and work with individuals after this meeting to address the concerns that any of you bring forward. And Kim has agreed to chair this working group because, as she likes to point out, she will be using these positions in her work on behalf of our league. So the group that she's agreed to convene will create a report of recommendations to the board and will go to a vote of the membership at our annual meeting. So anyone who is interested in participating will get a chance to indicate it on the survey that we're going to be sending out following this meeting. And these will be, as you see on your screen here, this will be the list that we'll be looking at this time around this year. So you'll get this, obviously, this information when you get your email. You can take a look and read through the positions that we have under these categories. And if there's anything you think needs to be updated, revised, etc., you'll have a chance on the form to join this working group and participate with Kim on updating our positions. Any questions about that? Yeah, Beryl? You're muted.
Why aren't the action policies in this list?
I'll have to take a quick look, but each year, oh yeah, the action policies. I guess it depends on where they are. So we have our list.
We just adopted them last year, right?
True. Yeah.
That's pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, so we do half one year and half the next year. And next year, I guess we will probably include the action policies. But
well, but housing belongs under social policies.
Well, the way that we have them laid out, the housing action policy and the transportation action policy are at the end of the document. So that's we didn't insert it into the middle of our positions document.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if there are no more questions about our positions, I would like to invite us all to get a cute photo together so that we can have this as our record for our upcoming voter. Everybody fix your hair, lick your lips, do your thing. And I think Kim's going to get a screenshot of us all.
Yes, I will. All right, we're going to do one more right now. Got it.
Excellent. Okay, let's go back.
My video didn't work, wasn't working when you took the photo. Might
Do you
be
want to
able
try
take
one more?
Sure.
All right, let's get Miles in there. Oh, there he is.
All right, people are coming back on. 1, 2, 3. All right.
All right. Thank you. All right, we'll finish up here. Let me get back to this. Okay, so the next item is just next steps. Our last slide. So we'll be sending you a link, as I've said throughout this presentation, and you'll have opportunities to review this video and like slow down, back up, rewind, listen to other people's comments. You'll get links to the information that has the additional details with each of these concurrence issues and other items for emphasis. And then the executive committee will submit your recommendations. As Kim had said, they're due March 1st. So
Lori, can you share your other window?
Which one?
We're seeing your speaker notes.
Oh, that's not supposed to be happening. Hold on. Well, I mean, we don't really need to see that. It's just the wrap-up slide. So, and I've mentioned the wrap-up slide like 12 dozen times in this presentation, so I apologize. Just telling you what's going to be coming. So as I was saying, the executive committee will submit the recommendations to the board, and members will vote on the proposed program at our June 11th annual meeting. So that's it. That's it for today.
Thanks, everyone.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Carol.
Good to see you all.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great job.